Get ready, skywatchers, for another astronomical event. 6 of our solar system's 8 planets will soon be visible as a straight line in the night sky. This rare planetary alignment is expected to happen in the early hours of June 3rd and 4th, and will see Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus appearing in a straight line. We previously saw a similar planetary parade in March of 2022. This planetary parade, as an alignment of this sort is known, will only be missing Venus, Earth's evil twin. Even Earth's lunar satellite will be visible in the lineup. What makes these lineups so intriguing is that the planets don't actually appear in a straight line in their orbit. How does the alignment happen? The planets orbit the Sun continuously in the solar system. The planets will slowly catch up to one another over time. Because they are all traveling along the same path, the ecliptic, as they pass Earth, it appears as though they are aligned, according to NASA. However, the alignment formation will be short-lived since each planet moves at different speeds, depending on its distance from the Sun. Let's take a closer look at the conditions for observing the planets. Mercury and Jupiter, for example, will be very close to the position of the Sun in the sky and thus likely will be masked by the brilliant glow of morning twilight. Perhaps binoculars will allow you to get a glimpse of these two worlds, but in addition to trying to sight them against the dawn's early light, He will also be exceedingly low to the east-northeast horizon. They both will rise only about a half hour before sunup. So, unless you have a nice flat horizon, with no obstructions, like distant buildings or trees, you can probably forget making a sighting of the solar system's smallest planet, Mercury, next to the largest planet, Jupiter. Next comes Uranus, which is visible to the naked eye, but only under very dark, non-light polluted skies. It is, in fact, close to the threshold of visibility for most people without using any optical aid. Of course, to sight an object so faint, you'll need to know exactly where it is in the sky. A good star map will certainly help. But all this is really just a moot point on June 3rd, since Uranus will rise only about an hour before sunrise, when morning twilight will be well advanced. So, like Mercury and Jupiter, there's no real chance of seeing Uranus either. Interestingly, whomever created this deceptive sky graphic left out the most obvious of all celestial sights, the Moon. On Monday morning, June 3rd, early risers will see a lovely waning crescent moon hanging low in the eastern sky. And around 4 a.m. local daylight time, about a half-dozen degrees to its right will be a relatively bright orange light. That will be Mars. At last, a planet that is plainly visible without the aid of binoculars or a telescope. Next comes the farthest planet from the Sun, Neptune, which is much too faint to be perceived with the unaided eye, lying at an average distance from the Sun of 2.8 billion miles. It's more than 6 times dimmer than Uranus. So, no chance of seeing that planet either, unless you have access to a dark sky, a star chart, and at the very least a good pair of binoculars or a telescope. Finally, there is Saturn, which rises in the east-southeast around 2 a.m. But the best view of it comes as the eastern sky is beginning to brighten, when Saturn hangs fairly high in the southeast. Again, the rings are invisible unless you're using a telescope. To the unaided eye, Saturn appears as a relatively bright light glowing with a yellowish-white tint. Planetary alignment is not an event in which all the involved planets line up in a perfectly straight line. The explanation may seem reasonable for such a lining up to happen if one is looking at a two-dimensional diagram. This is because the orbits of all the planets are represented on the same plane in such a setting. In reality, planets exist in 3 dimensions and their orbits are all offset from each other at different angles. Even if some planets appear to have lined up in a top-down view of the solar system, it's nothing but an illusion. Switching to the side view will reveal that all of them are at different elevations. This is not to say that the planets will not be aligned. While you won't be able to see 4 of them visually, Mercury, Jupiter, Uranus and Neptune, they will all still be out there and indeed positioned along a straight line in space. That's because all of the planets revolve around the Sun along more or less the same orbital plane. From here on Earth, that orbital plane is known as the ecliptic, and all of the planets appear to travel along it. And it's not particularly rare to see a number of planets lined up along the ecliptic from our cosmic perspective here on Earth. Planetary conjunction versus alignment. Let's not confuse these two terms. A planetary conjunction occurs when two or more planets appear very close together in the sky from our earthly perspective, creating a striking visual tableau. This proximity is an optical illusion. As the planets involved remain millions of kilometers apart in space, they merely line up along our line of sight. Conjunctions can involve any celestial bodies, including stars and the moon, and vary in visual impact depending on the brightness and apparent proximity of the involved planets. On the other hand, a planetary alignment is a broader and somewhat rarer event, occurring when three or more planets fall into a rough line within our solar system. This type of alignment is best viewed from above the ecliptic, the plane of Earth's orbit around the Sun, making such alignments more a matter of celestial mechanics than visual spectacle. This rare planetary alignment will be visible around the world in most locations on June 3rd, though the exact location you'll see it in the night sky will change depending on where you are. Other places will be able to see it on June 4th. For planets, Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, and Saturn should be visible with the naked eye. But you'll need high-powered binoculars to spot Uranus, which will be closest to Mercury, and Neptune.